Hello YouTube, hello vinyl community, Baraka P Dub here. I'm back again with another Tales of the Deadwax. I know it's been a little while. This one just happens to be by request, and it took me a little while to put out because I was trying to find a good photo of the person that I'm trying to feature here today, and I scoured the internets and I could not find anything. So if one of you guys happens to have a definitive photo, please let me know. Here's one that could be the individual in question, and that is Alan Zentz, but I just don't know because there is nothing out there. And Alan, who started out in the 60s or late 60s, and then he came up with his own mastering and recording studio in the early 70s, Alan Zentz Mastering. The data just is not out there. I do have a poster here which I'm showing you from his mastering studio, but you know, if you guys know of a good photo, let me know. I'd love to know exactly what the gentleman looks like. Unfortunately, he passed away in 2003, and there just isn't a whole lot out there, but he is one of the mastering greats in my opinion, and some of the albums he's best associated with is Kiss, or at least the early Kiss catalog. And so this is Kiss's Hotter Than Hell. Now, how do you know you have an Alan Zentz mastering? Well, if you look at the Deadwax, you're going to see a big A and a little Z. Now, sometimes, and I dispute some of the folks on Steve Hoffman and Discogs, and I have proof, and I'll get into that, you will see a capital A and a capital Z. Now, Kiss, some of their earlier works was not the best produced. I mean, and that's nothing against the music, and I know there are some passionate Kiss fans out there. But I just got to highlight a video here done by the vinyl professor, James Griffiths. So he covered Destroyer, which I'm showing you here. And Destroyer was professionally produced, professionally, well, this was professionally mastered, but it was mastered at Sterling Sound because the album was recorded in New York, and so I can only assume they wanted to keep the tapes in the same location. So a lot of the work done in the mid to late 70s was done by Sterling, but that's not to say that Alan Zentz didn't do the most that he could with this. So again, if you're looking for earlier Kiss, the AZs are the ones to get. Now, Alan Zentz mastering facility is pretty well known for being associated with Casablanca Records and the subsidiary Oasis Records, and so he did Donna Summers' first album, Love to Love You Baby, which is a classic, produced by Giorgio Moroder, who I absolutely love, and this is just a classic. So here again, here's a shot of the AZ. Now, one of the beloved artists of the vinyl community is David Bowie, and this is one of his solid works from the mid-70s, Station to Station. I'd actually like to do a vinyl shootout, and I think I will in the future, of the Alan Zentz mastering of this album, and then I'd also like to do the new remastered and repressed edition. I actually have both copies, so look forward to another shootout, but here is the AZ in Station to Station. Now, when you get to the late 70s and then the 80s and beyond, you're actually going to see a physical stamp called Alan Zentz Mastering in the Deadwax. Now, if you just see Alan Zentz Mastering, it could have been anyone doing the actual mastering, and here is an example of that, and this is Zap from 1980, classic, more bounce to the ounce. This is definitely recommended by me, and this was done by Alan Zentz, and it just sounds fantastic. Now, for the proof, the capital A and the capital Z. Now, again, if you look on the internet, they'll say if you see a capital A and a capital Z, it may not be done by Alan. It's probably not done by Alan. Well, here's my dispute on that. So this was a gift by Jimmy M., who I featured previously in Recorded Oddities, and this is Roberta Kelly. And thank you, Jimmy. This is a fantastic album. This was also done by Giorgio Moroder. recorded in Munich. And this, if you look at the Deadwax, you see a capital A and a capital Z. Now, how do I know it was done by Alan Zentz? Well, the back cover actually says Alan Zentz and not Alan Zentz Mastering. So, if I'm wrong, please let me know, but, you know, this says Alan Zentz and there's a capital AZ. Now, let's cover two individuals that work for Alan Zentz. The next individual has a huge reputation, and that is Brian Big Bass Gartner. Now, Brian worked for Bernie Grundman for a while, and now he has his own studio. And here I'm just showing you his website, and he has actually become one of the, you know, the go-to guys for mastering hip-hop records. But he wasn't always doing hip-hop records. This is one of the classics that he just happened to do, and that is Ozzy Osbourne's Blizzard of Oz. Now, Brian, I love his Deadwax because you know, he's used BG, and I don't happen to have any of the BG because I think it'll get confused with Bernie Grundman. But he has a flower, like I'm showing you here from the Blizzard of Oz, and then he will also have some seagulls, like I'm showing you here, or birds. Now, this was the album that really got me thinking about actually doing this one. Someone had commented on my video, and forgive me because I cannot remember for the life of me doing this video who made the comment, but somebody commented, hey, the Queen the Game just sounds fantastic, cover Alan Zentz, and I have to agree. Queen's the Game is a fantastic sounding album. I honestly believe that it was the last fully solid album from Queen's career. Now, I know some purists will probably dispute me, but this was not done by Alan Zentz. This was actually done by Brian Gartner, and here you can tell by the Deadwax who actually mastered it. I scoured my collection to find an example of the birds in the Deadwax, and I know I have several, but I just could not find them for the life of me. And what you see on Steve Hoffman and Discogs, I think, is relatively incomplete. And I think now, as I'm going through and picking up and cleaning albums, if I see some stuff that is not documented in Discogs, I'll probably go back in and try and update some information. But here is an example of one of the albums that does have the seagulls, or the birds. Why am I saying seagulls? But it does have the birds on it, which I think is pretty cool. And that is the Great Concert of Charles Mingus. Now, this came out in Prestige in the late, or mid, now I want to say early 70s. And this is just a fantastic 3 LP set. Now, the reason why it's classic is because of the lineup. So look at who you have here. You have Clifford Jordan and Eric Dolphy. Now, the one thing that I do not like about this set is that it was electronically rechanneled for stereo. So they originally recorded it in mono, and Brian did cut some of the lacquers for this, and here's an example of the birds. Now, the last person I'm going to feature here, I actually covered under Bernie Grundman, and Brian Gartner also worked for Bernie Grundman for a while. Now, Chris Bellman, he cut his teeth with Alan Zentz, and this is just one of the albums that he cut. This is my favorite all-time soundtrack or work done by Giorgio Moroder, and this is the soundtrack to Midnight Express. And even though it does say mastered by Alan Zentz, he may have, done the mastering, but Chris Bellman cut the lacquers, and so when I look at the Deadwax, I see a CB over 2 next to AZ, and over 2 could mean it was half speed mastered. I just don't know, but you see CB, that means Chris Bellman. And yeah, I know I have some other Chris Bellmans that were done at Alan Zentz Mastering, but this is the only one I could find for this particular video, so that's all I have for you today. Thank you all for the suggestions. Do you have any comments on Alan Zentz, Brian Gardner, or Chris Bellman? Shoot me a comment down below. And until next time, and thank you for watching.